Chapter 851. After the driver drove the Rolls-Royce Ghost away, Alex drove Trump's BMW over to the entrance of the airport. As soon as the car stopped directly in front of the three of them, the old man hurriedly opened the rear car door before he said in a gentlemanly manner, "Nadaria, after you." Nadaria nodded slightly before she smiled and bent her body to get into the car. Immediately afterward, Viley walked over to the other side of the car as he prepared to get into the back seat with his mother. At this time, Trump hurriedly said, "Oh, Viley. Since you and Alex are both young people, you should have a lot of topics in common. You should have a good chat with him along the way to the hotel." After that, Trump quickly got into the back seat before Viley could even reply to his request. Viley had no choice but to get into the co-driver's seat. Alex drove toward the city and Trump, who was sitting in the back seat with Nadaria, could not help but feel a little embarrassed as he said, "Nadaria, my car is a little old and crude. I hope that you will not mind it too much." Nadaria replied helplessly, "Trump, I already told you that I do not care about all these things at all. So, you have to stop talking like this." Yes, Trump started to compliment her, "I know that you do not care about all these things. I just feel that this car is not worthy of your temperament and elegance at all. Just look at you. You do not look like a person who is about to turn 50. You look like you are less than 40 years old. A woman like you should be riding in a top luxury car such as the Rolls-Royce Ghost." Nadaria blushed when she heard Trump praising herself. She smiled before she said, "Trump, after so many years, you are still so eloquent." Trump smiled before he said, "I am only speaking from the bottom of my heart." Nadaria nodded slightly before she asked, "So, how has life been for you throughout all these years?" Trump sighed as he replied unhappily, "I am just living an ordinary day-to-day life. To be honest, I have never been happy after graduating from university." Nadaria asked in a low voice, "Aren't you happy with Elaine?" "Happy?" Trump smiled wryly before he said, "I have never experienced happiness even after spending the past 20 years with her." When Nadaria saw Trump's wry smile and the inexhaustible expression of pain on his face, she could not help but feel a hint of distress and regret in her heart. She suddenly recalled the one thing that she could never forget on the eve of their graduation day. That day, her roommate had run back to their room and cried as she said that her boyfriend had taken her virginity after he got drunk from drinking too much. Nadaria was so shocked at the news and she felt as though she was on the verge of collapse. At that time, she had been happily planning the route that she was going to take after graduation. Her family had already arranged for her and her boyfriend to go abroad to further their studies so that both of them could be inseparable. At the same time, they would be able to obtain higher qualifications together before they return to the country and serve and become a pillar of the country. Who would have expected such a terrible and disintegrating incident to happen at a time like this? At that time, her roommate was crying in front of her as she apologized for her mistake. Her roommate kept insisting that her boyfriend was too drunk and he did not know what he was doing. She begged her not to mind them and not to tell anyone else about this matter. But how could she possibly do that? Her boyfriend had had sexual intercourse with her roommate. How could she just ignore that fact? Since she was the kind of person who emphasized feelings rather than interests, she could suffer all kinds of grievances for her loved ones. But she would never accept it if her loved ones betrayed her or if there were any kind of flaws in their relationship. She could not accept it at all. Therefore, Nadaria decided to back out of the relationship and she left Oris Hill and Japan on her own. She was even more shocked and upset when she learned that her ex-boyfriend and roommate had already gotten married after she went abroad.